Morning and welcome back. Well, as you can see, it's a brief window that it's not raining. The weather continues, as everybody in Britain knows, is still rubbish. It's forecast to start raining in a couple of hours. And I thought I'd take the moment to actually sit out and enjoy the sunshine, even though I'm having to sit on a plastic bag because the seats are so wet. Anyway, and on that, coincidentally, that is my next task that I'm going to do. The seats out here, which are actually my previous neighbour, Narrowboat Veloci. That's their old subfloor that they threw out when I arrived. Anyway, of course, it was never meant to be permanent, and I have that buffalo board that I bought when I went to visit my father back in May, sit in a container. So I'm going to cut those up, and it'll take a while to get them sealed, but then hopefully get those replaced. Because as you can see, after a winter, those are very much falling apart. You can see the see the debris down there. And in other news, my tomato collection on the bow is, to my amazement and delight, is actually, despite the rubbish weather, is coming out okay. Yeah, I haven't admitted to having tomatoes before. I think that's the first time you've seen them. And in case you're thinking, WTF, Stephen, haven't you got enough to do without starting gardening? Literally, the two on the outside, Narrowboat Laura, who does a fantastic, she makes a lovely display of plants and vegetables on her roof. Anyway, she planted some tomatoes, and when she was pricking out the seedlings, she had a number that were in her sort of, they were runts, so they were going to get thrown away. And I thought, well, I used to grow tomatoes every year when I lived in Vienna, and there, because of the weather, they're they're absolutely wonderful. Anyway, I thought, well, if they're going to be thrown away, there's no harm me bought a couple of buckets and some compost, and I put them in. I thought, well, they'll either work or they'll fail. And I'd say until a couple of weeks ago, I thought they were going to fail. They were just literally. They were sitting as pure white marbles for months, and however, despite the fact there hasn't been much sun, they've started to change to red, so that will be nice. I think looking at them, I think I might just about break even by the time there were cheap buckets and cheap compost, but I think I might just about break even on the amount of tomatoes I get versus the cost of the buckets and the tomatoes. I mean, as I said, in Vienna, I had the opposite problem, and the weather is so warm there that I ended up having more tomatoes than what I could do with, and ended up having to can them and no matter what. This is a problem I'm not going to be having. I'm going to be savouring each individual tomato very individually here, I think. Well, it's taken me absolutely hours to do these, which are templates for the seats, sort of covers, as it were, because they're not even parallelograms. They're trapeziums. Well, that one's certainly not even a parallelogram, but even the ones at the bow lockers in the front, you'd think that's a parallelogram, but it's not. Because I started off parallelogram and it didn't fit. Anyway, better do it in cardboard than very expensive buffalo board. I've been putting this off because, as well as not really being on the critical path, although obviously they have to be done sooner, sooner rather than later, as it were. But also, of course, it means it's my favourite activity, cutting up sheet materials. Although at least the large sheet material was cut up to by the place I bought it, so I could actually get it in the car. So this is probably the biggest I have to manhandle, which compared to the full-size sheets is not so bad. Well, it's early evening now, so it's taken me all day to measure up and cut 5 bits of wood. In fairness, it is quite fiddly, and also, if I'm honest, I'm quite pooped from what in YouTube terms is last week's bed building, but in reality is only yesterday. Anyway, it's quit for the day. Still to do is I need to seal them and put some trim around them, but as I said, that's yet to come. So the next step on the boards is to seal the cut edges with this stuff, which is edge sealing paint, and they're made specially apparently for the phenolic face ply. Well, that's the first coat done. Obviously they need a second coat, which hopefully should be able to done later today. And then I'm going to further trim them with some strips of aluminium around the edge. However, the place that I've ordered them online wants £20 delivery, even though they're cut down into metre pieces. So what I'm going to do is wait until I go on a trip back to London and detour. It's a bit of a detour to Hertford, but not that much, and pick them up on the way. So the finishing those will have to wait for a week or so. Well, it's quite an occasion that I'm finally down to the last sheet of plywood. So I've used, well, I was going to say I've used 1.5 tons of wood, but there's probably about half a ton of scraps still in here, but you know what I mean. So I'm about to dismantle and break up that pallet and give myself some room, and I'll have a good tidy up as well. Well, that will take considerably less space up in the container, and it'll keep me warm in the winter when I've chopped up to firewood finally. And it's kept me quite warm now. Phew. So, that's enough for now. I think it's a spot of lunch. Well, I know you're not going to believe me, but I've just had a couple of hours clear up, and believe you me, it is infinitely better. And I also feel a lot better myself. It's almost like a weight has been lifted off my shoulder. I can actually now walk to back of the container without actually climbing over things. And you know, I know it looks like a disaster sill, but I don't have any shelves, so things will always have to live on the floor. But still. Well, it wasn't on the plan, but I decided. Why did I decide? But I just thought I'm going to cut up that last damn sheet of plywood. So I have. And when I say the last damn sheet of plywood, as I mentioned, unfortunately this was a last, and it would be wonderful it was, but this is not the last sheet of plywood I'll be cutting up, but the last of the batch that I had from last year. Well, for the first time ever, I've turned the tables, turn the table saw around, because as you can see, there was no chance I would be able to fit this in, and I don't know if you can hear, but it's as usual, it's tipping down with rain outside, so I can't even do my usual thing of these big pieces, taking them outside and doing them with the circular saw. Anyway, it's working fine. The first one, of course, first cut is always the hardest to mix a Mangala song. That's well, that's absolutely dripping wet. It comes out sticking outside for a minute. But then once you work through them, it works all right. And as I said, it is such a nice feeling to get the wood down into manageable sizes. All that's absolutely soaking. Well, that was a bit of an unplanned detour, and as so often took me a bit longer than expected. I had a really good start, and thought I was going to do it in the morning, and then as it went on they got more and more fiddly, and it's taken me a day and a half, but hey. And while they're not quite finished, it's great to have some cupboards to hide all the mess. I mean, obviously they need painting, and they need handles putting on. And I've still got more to do in the back. However, as I said, to get some ticked off the list is a nice feeling. Well, while I'm in kitchen detour mode, I thought I'd finally try and use up these scraps of 9mm ply, which are the trimmings from when I did the lining all that time ago. I'm actually surprised myself how many bits of wood I've had to cut up. But anyway, there you are. It's taken all afternoon, but they're done. And as you can see, I've also routed a channel in of them, which also took a, well, not a while, but it was another thing to do, and then give them a quick sand the channel out. And doing that 8 times gets you 8 shallow boxes, like that.
So what all that in aid was there for this, for under the kitchen kickspace and also the bathroom.
You can see it more clearly in the sink where I've taken the panel off when I was putting the sink, but when I put the cabinets in, I just put these small runners either side, and then these just slide inside. I've just put a larger plate, and that then acts also as the kick plate, and just a little finger hole to pull them out. You know.
Storage is at a premium, so even those few centimetres are worth having. I mean, I do think that actually they're quite good for putting shoes and things in. I know shoes in the kitchen don't sound logical, but hey. Right, so a bit of a shorter video this week, and I have to say, editing it not as interesting or exciting as last week's, but that's the way things go. I have to say, as I mentioned a few times, I've been quite whacked this week from doing the bed last week, and that was a real effort. So I haven't been quite as efficient as I have been in some weeks. And also I've had to take some time off to think about what I'm going to be doing next week, because it's a whole sort of change of gear, and I need to do some thinking and researching. So obviously I don't take video of me looking at the computer, because that really would be excruciatingly boring for you. Anyway, what else? Oh, and the other thing I've been taking time. I've bitten the bullet, and I've now booked a paint shed for November. I've also in connection, and because of the I've also joined the Aylesbury Canal Society, which they seem lovely people. With this weather, and I think I might have mentioned it in the past, I was starting to fret about how to get the top side painted. The hull is fine. The hull is done, thanks to my father. Well, apart from the base plate. Anyway, yeah. So when I was umming and ahhing, do I splurge, all the extra money on trying to rent a wet dock so you can float the boat in on, a paint shed, and in the end decided it was worth it for just the lack of stress and the fact that going to be able to plan on. The weather doesn't seem to be improving any time soon, as anybody in Britain will know. So that's what I've done. However, with the whole timing of things, and also the Aylesbury arm of the Grand Union Canal is shut for winter maintenance until basically the whole of November. So long story short is I booked it for the first week of November. So once I'm in the water here, and hopefully October I will remain in the marina and sort out everything here, make sure it's all working. If it's not, I'll have to I'll cancel the booking, and we'll have to rejig the plans. But if everything goes to plan, it means that in early November I will start plodding my way down the Grand Union and getting myself to Aylesbury for December. Anyway, that's that a lot. It is a long time ago, but also things to do. It's still like, oh my god, that's next week. I know, it's a lot to do before then. So, in the meantime, thanks for watching, and keep you. Oh no, and yeah. I think I might have again mentioned in the videos. I'm planning a trip back home in the near future. So that means that I'm probably not going to be able to spurt out a video next week. So it's probably going to be a missing week. So bear with me, and I will be back on your YouTube feed as soon as possible. In the meantime, hope you're doing well, and catch you later.